All right, we are getting people tuning in.
Look at that.
How is everybody doing out there on this beautiful Friday? This is just James checking in, and we are out here. We're really excited to go ahead and see and interview the big chief, Mr. Bossman, Mr. Franco Vescovi. We're going to learn a little bit about him, about his tattoo career, about his life, what his influence is, and let's see if we can just get right to it. Let's go ahead and cut out all the chit-chat and get straight to the business. But we want to know first off where you guys are all checking in. Mr. Dan Smith, how you doing, sir? We got Brazil checking in. We've got, let's see, Franco. Hey, can you check on Franco and get him live? Awesome. Okay, let's see. We've got Sweden checking in. Where else? I see you, Mr. Jeffrey Mendoza. Let's see. Who else is here? How's everybody doing with quarantine? I know it's been a little tough. I know we're over here trying to kick ass and stay positive and bring that positive message to you all at home. So thank you for tuning in. Give you guys a little break from reality and tuning in with us here. Let's get over some tips, tricks, and treats with Mr. Bossman. And I do see Mr. Sage. How you doing, sir? And we've got Mr. Franco tuning in here. Hold on. Let's see. All right. Trying to go live with Mr. Franco here. Hold on one second, you guys. There we go. We got Pakistan checking in. Hey,
What's up, fellas? And
Whoa.
fellas. Hold on
You're
one
giving
second.
us a view of the sky, huh?
So I'm over here. As a shop owner, I stop by the studio. It's like a ghost town in here. So I stop by here, every couple of days just to make sure that the dust isn't collecting and that the lights are on. We'll do a little walkthrough real quick. So we're at Vatican Studios, influenced by my trips to Italy, and let's go look at the ceiling.
Man. Yeah, I definitely, I know we all miss home. I know we've already got a bunch of our guest artists checking in saying they already know about that spot, Federico. Man, that is definitely some sacred ground. And talk to us a little bit about Vatican, if you could.
So I'm glad you guys are all tuning in. So we're going to talk about some stories that a lot of people have never heard before. The origins of Bishop, the origins of me as a tattooer, as a businessman, as a tattoo shop owner. I'm going to just unload and unpack lots of goodies for you guys to learn from. Little tricks and tips that I've learned along the way as a business owner, as a tattoo artist, as a father. But yeah, this is my ghost town right now. It's kind of sad, man. This is our guest spot room right here. Then we have Mr. Dan from Russia, our brother. We got Chris over here. You just can't see him because they're not here. Our brother Devin. So man, it's a ghost town. How many of you guys out there miss your crew? How many of you guys miss your brothers and sisters that you work with today? So, hey man, look, we're closed down. It's official, just for a little bit though. Look at here's the Bishop store. Did you see that? Did you see that ball of hay go by?
So well, hey,
right,
we got you here with us, man, and I know you're walking around the studio. Let's just jump right into it. Everybody gets a chance to meet you at these different conventions, and everybody's just so excited to meet you, so excited about Bishop. Can we let's start with the origins. Let's start with who Franco Vescovi is.
All right, man. So let's. You guys. Sorry. Hey, James, I turned the dude.
Hello. Oh, you froze. There you go.
I turned my do not disturb, but I guess that doesn't work, and calls can still come through.
Okay. If there are multiple calls, if they call multiple times, it may go.
Okay. All right.
But
So if
okay,
it does that
we'll
again,
deal with it.
I'll put you right back on. It's one of my favorite things in the world. My fish tank brings me a lot of peace and joy and happiness to look at my fish. All right, you guys. So a quick little story on me as a tattoo artist. I started tattooing in the 11th grade. Now we're talking 1993. There was nobody tattooing really. Man, it's you know, I started out because my cousin Dean, you know, I had a cousin Edwin and Dean, and they used to sort of kind of push me into learning how to tattoo. I had a homemade machine that I learned how to make from a friend of mine that just got out of prison, and I had my brother Julio, you know, who he was kind of like an RC race car guy, so he knew how to build a lot of stuff. So we took that recipe to the hobby store and we built the first machine. So 27 years ago, I built my first rotary machine. So the origins of Bishop actually go back to 27 years. I was making people rotary machines back in the days with guitar strings, Walkman motors, parts from, you know, like a RC store. So that was my origins, you know, as a tattoo artist. I started there. And so my cousin Edwin, who we love and miss, he's over in Texas right now. Edwin, he would take me around to an area of town, San Gabriel, where he grew up, and he grew up with Freddy Negrete. And so I was always in the neighborhood with my cousin Edwin, partying, you know, just being silly and having a good time. And there was this guy, Freddy Negrete, who always seemed to surface with his tattooing was incredible. It is now and was back then. I mean, back then he was doing incredible work. I mean, nobody was. Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
Yep. So nobody was really doing that kind of work back then. Freddie, Jack Rudy, there was just a handful of people, but I remember just being mesmerized by his tattoos. I couldn't believe that type of artwork existed on skin, because, you know, before that, you know, it was like sailor tattoos and things like that. But to see a black and gray, you know, portrait, right? I remember looking at Chato Fly. That was his name. I ended up buying my first car from him. It was a Buick Regal. Chato Fly had a big mermaid that Freddie did. And man, I wonder till this day if that dude thought I was gay, because every time I saw him, I would just rub his arm and touch his tattoo and look at it. And it was like, damn, I can't believe this is real. So Freddie kind of put the first spark in my life. You know, rest in peace to his son Boo Boo and you know, Isaiah. And I love that family, and I really have to pay a lot of respect to Freddy Negrete as an artist and as a creative founder of Black and Gray, really realism, as well as Jack Rudy. Those are my idols in the tattoo game. But yeah, I saw his tattoos. I wanted to do it. It was like this weird magic that started bubbling up into my soul. And I said, man, I have to do that. Now, keep in mind, I've been drawing since I was 4 years old, 5 years old, not, you know, just always drawing. So, you know, to take it back even further, let me first say, guys, girls, I want this interview to be motivation. I want this to be something that you guys can take home. And I always say, James, what's the saying I always say? If I can do it,
anybody can.
And it's the truth, guys. If you're gonna look up to me for Bishop and for the tattoo career that I was so fortunate to have in any way, right? There's a lot of badasses out there, and I'm not saying I'm a badass, but I'm saying if there's anything I've done that you're gonna look up to, I want you guys to know that you guys can do it too. I'll take it back to my childhood. I grew up with a single parent. My mother, Sonia, rest in peace. And I grew up with 5 brothers and sisters, and we grew up poor. We grew up that standard, you know, very poor household, food stamps, you know, different churches bringing us food for different holidays, you know, hand-me-down clothing. You know, I was second. I was the second boy. So I have an older brother named Julio. I have a younger brother named Carlo, and a younger brother named Nikki and Garrett, and 2 sisters, Sarah and Gina. So there's like a ton of us. There's like 7 of us in total. I got it after him. My poor brother Carlo, man, his shit had holes in it by the time it came down to him. If you didn't finish your food first, you wouldn't get seconds. So the origin of me as a person, as a tattoo artist, started back in the streets of Santa Ana, the city of Santa Ana. As a young kid, a child, we grew up in an environment where there was lots of drive-bys and gang activity, and I had a mother at the time that just really didn't want us to enter that lifestyle, and so she really protected us. And so I turned to art, right? So I was the kid, you know, in Santa Ana, over in the different parks. I was the kid drawing. I was the kid going to the boys clubs, and you know, I was that was what I did, and that was my
your escape.
You know, I had you know, it was a crazy life. My father was an
Oh, you're breaking up.
really fucked up environment. Lots of. Okay, are you there?
Yeah, it's breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
There we go.
Okay, let me know if it breaks up again. So my childhood was like really shaky. It was a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity, and I just pretty much turned to artwork, and I drew every day. That was my escape. I had invisible friends, right? And so I just was this creative dreamer kid.
Yeah.
And so I turned to art. And so like when I was 17, you know, hanging out with my cousin Edwin in the neighborhood in San Gabriel, that was when I was on a porch. I remember we were on a porch, one of Edwin's friends, Cubert, I'll never forget. And Edwin's bragging about my artwork to these guys, and he's like, man, you should tattoo. So he makes me go get my folder. I bring it back. I show the fellas my artwork. You know, at the time I was doing what they call Chicano style, right? I was doing, you know, Old English, you know, collage faces, because that was the influence that I came from. And so, you know, I remember Cubert. He's like, you need to tattoo, man. And Edwin, my cousin, he's like, you need a tattoo. So Edwin would sit me down and say, hey, man, you need to learn how to tattoo, man. This guy named Freddy Negrete that you're in love with, like, you got to realize, man, he's done it. He's bought houses. He's moved all around. Like, this guy's lived a beautiful life off of tattooing. And you know, and so he would say all the time, man, like, if you can do that life and keep your head straight and say no to drugs and say no to whatever crime or anything, any other temptation to pull me away, and just focus on tattooing, that would be, you know, what it would be. And so I took that advice. I made a homemade machine in 1993, transitioning from 11th grade to 12th grade. And by the way, a fun little factoid, I went to high school with Norm, rest in peace, our brother Norm.
Yeah. Man, we had that wonderful experience out there in Berlin with him, Sleeps, in last August, man. And that was just, that was really tragic, man. And always sending our love out there to Penny.
Yeah, always. We love you, Penny. Yeah. And, you know, guys, you know, this is a fun story I'm telling you. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of my life in a quick 45-minute manner. But a life of struggle, if all you guys out there and girls out there that have lived a life of struggle or are in the midst of struggling, man, you're fucking lucky. Like, you got to realize something. One of the things I've learned that I'll share with you is I'm so fortunate to have struggled. I'm so fortunate to have eaten out of trash cans as a kid. We used to go behind Lucky on Bristol Street, and, you know, we would take the food that they would throw away that was like almost bad, and so that was sort of the childhood. And
hey, we need to get you in some lighting. We got some people talking about the lighting. We need to get you in. There's not enough light. They want to see that beautiful face. There we go.
Let me. How about this? So, so you know, what we're going through right now with this COVID stuff, and you know, not being able to tattoo and express ourselves. A lot of us tattoo artists, man, we need to express ourselves. People don't realize something about tattoo artists. We're lone wolves, man. We're not like the rest of the world, man. We're rebels. We're often sensitive, right? I mean, whether you want to admit that or not, if you're an artist, you're a sensitive motherfucker. You think deeper than the average person. You feel like you don't belong to the rest of the world. And I think that's what makes tattoo artists unique. We're not like anyone else in the world. You know, we bond together as creatives because we feel that only they would understand. So that's kind of what separates us from the pack, from the rest of the world. And so for that matter, you know, with what we're going through today with the COVID, man, you know what? What a fucking blessing this is. Yeah, and
How many times? How many times in your professional career, Franco, has the government told you time out,
I
go
mean, look,
find
man,
yourself, time out?
you know, it's like, I mean, look, man, it's like this. Dwayne Dwyer, right? I have many influences, but Dwayne Dwyer, rest in peace. He's a great example that I used to love reading his books and his audios. He always said, "Don't change the situation, change the." He says, "Don't try to change the things you see. Change the way you see things. So don't try to change the situation, because in this case we can't. In a lot of ways we can't, but we can change the way we see things. We do have the power to have a different approach and opinion over what's going on, and different perspective, right? Because I look at it like we travel through life with a pair of glasses on, and we choose to see the world however we want, right? So the reason why I say this thing is a blessing is, to be honest, is because it is a blessing. And the reason why it's a blessing is the same reason why when I had a fire at my studio and it burnt most of my shop down with no insurance, that was a blessing. When I had lung cancer and made it through that, why that was a blessing. And when I lost everything in 07, 08, was sleeping on my cousin's couch, why that was a blessing. You don't really know it until it's over. And I'm sure some of you that are, you know, deep thinkers can see through what I'm saying and understand that, you know, if you take this time out to better yourself, like how many chances do we ever get to stop everything and to have a moment to better ourselves, have a moment to read more books, get caught up on mentorship with different people that we follow, draw more, do all the projects we want to, just self-reflect. You know how powerful it is to self-reflect? That's fucking powerful. Just to sit there and do nothing but think and ponder your next move, your next tattoo, your next approach to your next tattoo, your brand, right? Some of you guys are working on your own brands. It's like, this is a time for you guys to be put in a situation where you hit the fucking ground running. I mean, we always hear that saying, look, I want to hit the ground running. Now's your chance. You can't hit the ground running when you're fucking in the hamster wheel of life. You're already running, right? You're already working every day. You're already raising your family. You're already doing your second job, whatever you're doing. So please, guys, use this blessing, this great grand time out to self-reflect, to reinvent yourself. Because, man, how many of you have gotten stagnant for like years in a row? How many of you right now have been stagnant for many years and now know that during this break you did self-reflect, you did ponder a couple of things, and you're just kind of like, wow, I'm a different person now. I cannot wait to do my next tattoo. I'm going to do more detail. I mean, so that's what I mean. I don't want to get too far involved in that, but this, going back to the story of Bishop, yeah, I started a long time ago. And just to really touch base and finish the part where, you know, how I started tattooing was, you know, I started tattooing in the 11th grade. Okay. I was tattooing. I was tattooing in the bathrooms at school. I got kicked out of school for tattooing. So, yeah,
There's a
I was a
crazy
rebel.
story you have about that, right?
So
With
I'll
your
tell you
dad?
a funny story. So my dad was one of the original guys that assaulted the word tattoo gun. So 27 years ago, I got caught tattooing in the bathroom, and somebody ratted me out. I was in the back stall. I had my friend Darren on the toilet standing. I was tattooing his mom's name on his arm with my little rotary machine, my first Bishop. And the school narc hated us because we always got in trouble because we, you know, again, these artists are always rebels. We don't want to pay attention to the system. Right. So, bam, he kicks the open. We come in, and then next thing you know, we hear the door kicked open. I'm sitting there with the tattoo machine in my hand. There was no way. I mean, you know, he probably thought we were doing other stuff. Who knows? Maybe drugs. But I got caught red-handed. This was a big school narc. And he took the tattoo machine. He called my dad.
Oh, lost you there. Hold on a second, guys.
My dad says, "Oh, you there? Did I cut out?"
There we go. Yeah, yeah. You cut out when the school narc caught you guys. Uh, Apologize, you guys all at home.
Okay, so I got
Apologize to you
caught.
guys tuning in. There we go.
I got caught red-handed tattooing at school in the bathroom. Door got kicked in. Got caught. My dad had to come down to the school. My dad was told that I had a gun, and so my dad says, "Okay, what kind of gun did my son have?" So the principal, he puts this homemade tattoo machine on the desk. My dad said, "What is this?" He goes, "That's the gun." And my dad said, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And the principal kind of goes back. My dad says, "That's not a fucking tattoo gun. That's a tattoo machine. It's not a gun." Because, you know, he's this boisterous, tall Italian guy that doesn't know how to be quiet when he's pissed. And I remember him just going off on the principal about about this tattooed gun. So my he's one of the first people that did not like the word tattoo gun. And so that's the story. My dad told me, "Hey, knock that shit off. I don't want you to tattoo anymore. What the hell are you doing anyways, man? That's for bikers and gangsters." And, you know, and that's what everybody thought back then. Now he's proud, but that's how I started, man. I started, I wasn't a professional tattoo artist, guys. I didn't have a formal apprenticeship. I started in the streets. I was tattooing, 27 years ago with no gloves on. That's just what it was. This is just my story, right? It's not something I condone, but that was all I knew back then. That's part of my history. And so I learned along the way. I mean, a lot of you guys and girls are so fortunate to have learned things from YouTube in different ways, man. But like back then, like that was it, and as I made that transition into professional tattoo artist, I worked at a shop in Huntington Park on Florence and Seville. Shout out to Body and Mind. Guys like Chuy Quintanar, my good brother Happy, you know what I mean? Ray, John, that was an old school art. Like there was some cool times. That was good times in LA. So my first tattoo shop was in the hood. There was people running in there getting shot at. There was like cops that would pull up and park in front of the shop and get tattooed while they were on duty, right? I mean, it was a crazy freaking shop, man. And that was my first experience to being a professional tattoo artist. I was going to college in Long Beach at the time. I was going to Brooks College in Long Beach. And I met a friend of mine that said, "Hey, my cousin is she needs a tattoo artist to work at her shop, and I know you're tattooing in and out of the dorms. Why don't you go, talk to my cousin?" So I drove out to pick her up one day. She lived in Compton at the time, and that was the first time I rolled through Compton. I was like, "Oh shit, I'm about to go pick somebody up in Compton." And so picked her up. We went to the shop, and she gave me my first job. I tattooed that day. I stayed at Body and Mind for about 2 years, and then from there, my good brother Double D and Happy, they took me to LA Tattoo over there off of Hollywood Boulevard in Las Palmas.
There's a story
about I tattooed for a couple years. I tattooed for a couple years in Hollywood. That was a great time. And LA Tattoo had guys like Mike Brown, Cartoon, Baby Ray. I got a chance to work with Baby Ray, and that was a big influence on me because he taught me character. He taught me humility. When I got there, I was already a professional tattoo artist. The first thing Baby Ray said was, "What's up, motherfucker? You're last man on the totem pole." And I was like, I already heard stories about Ray, so I was kind of scared, man. I was a young, early 20s, and I said, "Okay." I didn't even know what that meant. I just agreed to it. And then I asked Double D. I said, "Hey, what does that mean, last man on the totem pole, man? Is he gonna kill me?" And he's like, "No, that means you got to mop. You got to mop the floor at 12 a.m. when we shut down." So as a professional tattoo artist, I had to mop, since I was the last person to be hired there. I had to mop the floor when we shut down. It didn't matter where I came from or if I was professional. And then when the next guy came in, it was his duty. And that's just the kind of world I came from. I came from a real world of tattooing, and all those stories you hear about the old school, they're real, man. And so I transitioned from a wannabe tattooer to a practicing tattooer to a professional tattooer. But let me back it up just for a hair. I never could get used to coil machines, you guys. I want you to know that Bishop Rotary is in my blood. The first tattoo machine I made was a rotary machine 27 years ago. I got used to the hit. I got used to the motor. I got used to all of that. I mean, I was doing everything with a single needle for the first 2 or 3 years with a homemade machine. Then from there, I transitioned to a cosmetic machine, which is a rotary. And then my friend put a Mickey Sharps in my hand. Probably, this is, God, my buddy Happy. This was probably like, this is at Body and Mind, you know, probably 3, 4 years after I started tattooing. I picked up this heavy freaking coil, and I said, man, I just want to tattoo with the coil because that's what all the cool kids are using.
Yeah,
So
right.
I was like, everybody makes fun of me because of these rotaries. I want to be a cool kid, right? Because we're always trying to fit in, you know, when we first get into the business. We don't even know who we are. We don't even have a style. So I started using coils, and man, I hated them from the beginning, man. They were always fluctuating. I had to tune them. I would always take them to Creeper. Good brother Creeper, man, one of the best machine builders ever, one of the best coil builders in the world, Creeper. And he was a man of few words back then and even to this day, but he's got a beautiful heart. And he would teach me how to, no, actually he would tune the coil machines up for me. I would drive to him in Anaheim or, you know, and he would actually tell me, hey, why don't I just teach you? That way you don't have to keep coming down here. So he kind of taught me how to tune a coil, and I did, and I tuned them for a while, you know, and so, but I would always flirt with rotaries. So I would then put it down and pick up my my cosmetic. So just to fast forward really quick on my professional career and becoming like a founder of Bishop. It was around 2007. So at the time I was using like one of the first swash drive machines. I always send love to swash drive. That was, so swash drive at the time was one of the few rotary machines in the world. I even send some love to Cheyenne on that because I call it like I see it, right? Like the first rotary machine I ever really played with outside of the cosmetic one was one called the Revolution. I don't know how many of you guys remember the Revolution rotary. In fact, I'll buy them. If you guys can get a hold of one, I'll give you good money for any old-fashioned rotary machine, but in particular the Revolution. That was the first linear slide-driven machine. You had to like cut your eye loop off of your needle bar and like, you know, screw it on. And
Wow.
And so that was sort of my influence back then. And so I was using a little bit of both of those machines. And so I kind of was thinking like, you know what, man, like I can't get along with coil machines. They're not right for me for some reason. Maybe because I started tattooing with rotary. But long story short, I had this idea. It was like, why don't you just make your own? And I've always been a tinkerer. I always took apart things as a kid and wanted to see how things worked, right? And so I was always intrigued by electronics and whatnot. I always felt like a tweaker as a child, even though I wasn't tweaking. I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. I used to love Legos. I used to have an erector set, right? A log cabin, anything that I can build and put together.
Yep.
So that whole energy of that kind of parlayed into this idea of I'm going to make my own machine because I like some of the stuff in this machine. I like some of the stuff in this machine. I don't like this and this. I'm going to make one that I like. And so guys, girls, the first Bishop machine was meant to be just for me. I hired this piece of shit, you know, engineer that ended up ripping me off later on. And, you know, so I hired this engineer and we worked on this machine and I was drawing him how it's got to look, you know, and how it needs to operate. And so I ended up making my first one. It took like a year and a half, really. So anyhow, fast forward, we're talking end of 2000, 2008. I'm tinkering with the first Bishop machines. They were the first fat, you know, ugly slide-driven one. I should have had some. I'd love to show you guys. But anyhow, that was the first Bishop we ever made. And transitioning from professional tattoo artist, I owned my own shop at the time, Orange County Ink House. I'm coming from this world back then that I'm like one of the few tattoo artists around, right? Like, I remember when I was watching the cartoons documentary, LA Originals.
LA Originals available on Netflix.
You guys better watch it if you haven't already. LA Originals, great history lesson for you guys.
Yeah, we just had Esteban and Cartoon on there, and those guys have nothing but love for you as well. So, man, the respect that you give them, they return it right back at you, man. So
nothing but respect for guys like that paved the way.
Absolutely.
Man, back when I started tattooing, doing black and gray, I jumped into portraits. I jumped into realism right off the bat. I mean, remember, Freddy Negrete is my teacher without him even knowing, right? So I'm not trying to do mediocre tattoos back then. I'm
Yeah.
jumping right into freaking realism, portrait, all that stuff. And of course, it wasn't as good as it ended up becoming later. But back then, it was that was what I wanted to do. So I opened up a shop. I remember back in those days, the only people doing portraits and like realistic black and gray and like Orange County, right, where I was living at the time, was like you would hear about this guy named Tim Hendricks, and then like you'd hear about this guy named Jose Lopez, you know, and then of course Jack Rudy in Anaheim, but like you never really heard about too many other people. I remember when we opened up in Lake Forest, man, we were the only tattoo shop in South Orange County besides Laguna Tattoo, you know, and there was nothing. You had to travel like 10, 20 miles to get to Oceanside before you hit your next tattoo studio, or you had to travel north to like, you know, the end of Northern Orange County to see your next tattoo. So we had it all to ourselves, man. It was
wasn't that kind of a time period when you had to kind of ask permission to open up your shop in an area, right? I mean,
yeah,
people were very territorial back then.
Yeah, now nobody cares. You know, it's crazy. I mean, people care, but they don't really. I mean, I came from a generation where they would bust open your shop and terrorize it if you opened up too close to them, and that's happened a few times. But
well, hey Franco, real quick, we are just about halfway through. Want to have people start asking some questions, so guys, start filtering those questions through. I know we got some shout outs here. We got Mr. Torres showing up. I see Mr. Bobby showing up there. We got Thor from Denmark, Callie Styles. We've got Jeffrey Mendoza. We got a lot of people just checking in. A lot of people are just saying thank you for everything that you're doing with
Bobby
Bishop.
in the house. Big Bobby.
El Franco, what's up, man? Our guy from Italy. But no, sorry to interrupt there.
You know what? Shoot a couple questions my way. And guys, we're going to sprinkle some questions throughout my story. I got a little bit more storytelling to do. But let's go ahead and hit some questions really quick.
Well, we've got a couple for you. So what's been some of the best advice or wisdom that you've received along your tattoo journey? Like what somebody that's said something that's just really resonated with you that, you know what, this is it.
So I've gotten a lot of cool wisdom from Jack Rudy, a lot of teachings from guys like old school guys like that. Even Baby Ray, Good Time Charlie. I listen to what the old timers are saying. And so like, I would encourage you guys to listen to what your older peers are saying that have maybe tattooed 20 plus years, right? There's a few of us, and, you know, 30 plus years, there's even fewer of those. 40 plus years is just a couple. But some of the wisdom I've learned along the way was always stay humble, treat your customer with utmost respect, right? Give 100% of yourself. Be patient. All right. Treat this very serious. Don't do drugs. Don't come to work, you know, smelling like alcohol. And so like early on, I had that instilled in me that I treated my customers really well. Like we were one of the first shops that was actually nice to customers. I mean, they're out there, but like back in those days, man, you walk into a tattoo studio, you felt like you were going to get either beat up or get your tattoo. And
it was a coin flip.
Yeah, but that's what it had to be back then. Like it wasn't a bad thing back then, but I think that in times change, right? And we're in a different era right now where it's a fierce competitive world. So we're not in the era where we could be too cool or to treat customers like crap, because they're just going to go down the street and get it. And a lot of us do this to feed our family. So yeah, that's some of the best wisdom I've gotten and I've put into practice, and I've actually seen it work. So yeah.
Oh, we got Mick. We got Mick showing up in here. How you doing, Mr. Stay-at-Home Mick? Our brother traveling Mick is asking.
My brother Mick.
Yep. He wants to know when and where is going to be the next Bishop family gathering. Where can Bishop family be seen next around the world?
Everybody say your prayers that London is a go. Because if that's the case, it'll be in London, and if for any other reason it's not, maybe it's going to be somewhere in Europe, maybe Italy, or maybe LA. But man, we're all looking forward to the next convention. I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of hugs, man. A lot of I missed you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that, you know, going back to what I said earlier about what a blessing this is because look, man, I think personally tattoo artists were getting too cocky. I think people were getting way too cocky. There was too many attitudes. There was too many people that were getting insta famous, and just really not respecting the craft. And to me, fuck you if you're not respecting the craft. I'm a nice guy, but when it comes to, like James, you know me, I'm real serious about.
We'll defend it with your
Yeah,
fucking life,
yeah,
dude.
I'm real serious about certain issues, and one of them is respecting the craft. And to these people out there that are getting these tattoo machines in China and stamping their name on them, and then pretending like they're machine builders. Like, fuck that. That's not respecting the craft. That's not respecting, machine builders like Tim Hendricks, myself, Norm, like people that are actually building them here in America. They've invented them, the shape and everything. So like things like that, or just giving things away that are not your own, that you haven't earned, right? You can't give your techniques away if they're not your own and you haven't earned them. So it's one thing for them to be your own, right? And look, man, if you've been tattooing for 20 plus years, chances are they're your own. If you've been tattooing for less than 10 years, chances are you're borrowing these techniques from other people, which is fine. But if you're going to exploit them or try to make money off of them, like, you have to at least earn it, right? And there's a period of time where when you get your tips from other people, you got to put it into practice for many years and earn it before you just go give it away for money. So there's a right and wrong way to teach, right? Being authentic, so yeah, I think it's my duty to protect the craft in many ways, and to teach the right thing, right? Like we're in a world right now where people like me need to be called forth to do some teaching. And the reason why is we need to start setting some records straight. There's a lot of misinformation about how to be clean, how things are made. And it's like, I know the answers to a lot of these questions, right? And it's like, a lot of people have the wrong information about a stroke or about give. And it's like, man, I don't want to see people fucking people up. Yeah. So I answer a lot of questions. I'm for free. I just don't care. I just want people to learn. I'll talk to somebody. You've heard me say this, James. I would have to admit I enjoy talking to no-name tattoo artists for hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Than some of the famous ones that are kind of stuck up, But then again, there's a lot of cool famous tattoo artists like Cartoon and Carlos Torres, and I shouldn't have even mentioned names because there's so many.
There's so many. We don't want anybody to feel because we didn't name them that they're not like That's why our Bishop family is that.
Yeah, all my good friends that are famous tattoo artists, like I knew them when they weren't famous, and I knew them when they weren't good, and so like there's this respect, you know what I mean? Like they know that I know the real them, and vice versa. Same with me. But I love humility. I love people that are famous and humble. Some of my most favorite celebrities that I've ever tattooed is like Tony Gonzalez, the football player.
Yeah.
Hands down the most humblest, awesome human beings you'll ever meet in the fucking world. And then you got guys like Travis Barker, like awesome. Famous, awesome guys, man, that are just dope, like humble and just they don't act cocky, man. They're just they've respected their own craft and they've paid their dues. And I love people like that. Then there's some celebrities that suck, and it's like I don't want to tattoo them ever again. Yeah. And then there's some cool people, like I've been fortunate to tattoo Suge Knight. Man, he's a nice guy. Like he's got a big heart, man. Like I saw a side of him that you never will hear about, man. Like I still wouldn't mess with him. But
hey, I've got another question here from our brother, Mr. Big Rich. Love you, buddy. Hope everybody's doing well. You spoke on all of your struggles and these obstacles and how you kept overcoming. How is it that you just kept pushing and staying positive when you knew you were struggling? What was it internally that kept pushing? Like, what was it that drove you to get over that hump? Because some people can just identify that they have the issue, but they don't know how to proceed forward.
That's an important question. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the things I struggled with. But look, at the end of the day, I want you guys to know that I did give up on Bishop. I did give up on owning a shop. Like, you got to realize, man, I actually went as far as giving up before I changed my mind to go back. So I've been tempted to give up, and I have, right? And so when I had, when I started Bishop in 2008, we were rolling and making machines for everybody. I was giving probably more away than, if you knew me back then, you probably got a free machine from me. I was just so happy to like share my knowledge about rotary machines. And I hope that, I don't want to brag or I don't want to boast about things, certain things, but I do want you guys to know that I did pay my dues in being one of the first people to push rotary machines to the entire tattoo world. And I'll tell you a little story. And guys like my brother Steve Soto and Mako and Alexis Vatate and Letitia, like these are people that have been using my machine since day one, like 2007, 2008. They believed in what I was doing, but everybody else made fun of me. You know, in fun, of course, like, you know, certain people be like, what, that's not a tattoo machine. What the fuck is that? And so like, I just knew rotary machines, to me, in my opinion, is that they're just better in a lot of ways. They're more consistent and you don't have to fuck with them, right? They either work or they don't. And so like, in 2010, I was just I wasn't really making money with the Rotary company. Yeah. It was sort of just kind of paid a little bit of the bills. But in 2010, I had a fire. And the fire burnt pretty much most of my tattoo studio down. It burnt Bishop down. And, you know,
when did that happen?
That was in 2010.
Christmas Eve?
Yeah, so I was at my dad's house on Christmas Day, well, in the evening. Yeah. And I got a call from Letitia. She's like, hey, the fire department called me and said the shop's on fire. And I'm like, what? There's no way. Quit playing with me. But I could just tell she wasn't kidding. So I rushed down there, and sure enough, the fire department was there. They were putting the fire out, and, you know, it was a shitty time, man. And so in my head, I was like really scared and nervous about what was going to happen. And I thought to myself, okay, but I got insurance. So this is, you know, but the truth is I didn't have insurance. It canceled. So what happened was I had to rebuild my studio. I remember the landlord came to me a couple days later and he says, well, you know, we got to kick you out, right? Oh, and I remember like this downstairs wasn't really so bad. It was more like the roof, and all of the upstairs was melted. You know, the TV was just, the couch was just a bunch of springs. The TV was just a frame. Down here was like halfway destroyed. And so I looked at the landlord and I said, look, man, if you kick me out, I'm not paying you anything, obviously. But if you let me stay, I'll pay for everything myself. I'll rebuild this whole building. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he goes, and this is a Poindexter motherfucker, man. His name is Stuart. Super proper. And he goes, if you can build this back to normal yourself, you got a deal. He stuck his hand out, and I shook hands with him. I was like, you got my word. And so fast forward, you know, I ended up saying, okay, I got to quit making tattoo machines. I'm not really making money. So I'm just going to focus on rebuilding the studio and tattooing. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I kind of stopped making machines for a couple months. And I just didn't really have a choice. I didn't have the money. I was tattooing every single day, all day long. I was eating like barely anything. I had kids and stuff, and so I was making sure they were fed, and I was basically struggling, man. I was paying my dues. Like that was a shitty time for me because I had lost my house. In 2008, I lost my house, and so I was sleeping on my cousin's couch. So, you know, I want you guys to know, man, like as a tattoo artist for 27 years that had successful studios and owned homes and fancy cars, I had a moment where I lost everything in 2008, 2009 when the market crashed. And so I was sleeping on my cousin Edwin's couch. Man. And I didn't have a home. I didn't have a car either, too. I was like, I had no car. I had no house. I remember my kids would come visit me on the weekend, and we would share this long couch. I had a little extra money, so I told my cousin Edwin, I said, hey, if you're going to let me sleep on your couch, I'm going to buy you a new one. And so I had enough money to go buy him like a $2,000 couch, you know, at like his cheap living spaces somewhere. And so I was sleeping on the couch. My kids were on the couch with me. And I remember one time I was like, I slept on the floor because the couch wasn't so comfortable. And I remember thinking, what the fuck? How did I get here? How did I come to this low? You know, here I am, you know, I used to be successful with business and this and that, and I made some wrong choices, and now I'm sleeping on my cousin's floor because the couch ain't even comfortable.
How did I get here?
So, yeah, you asked the question, why didn't I give up? I think it's because like we grew up struggling. So struggling was part of my nature. I didn't like it, but it was like who I was. So I wanted to give up. You know, you want to do drugs and drink, and I flirted with that. And there was moments where I gave in a little bit to that. But I just, by the grace of God, I just pulled myself out of it every time. And I just kept telling myself, man, I can't quit. I have kids. I don't want them to grow up like I grew up, you know. So a lot of it was for other people, for the kids and for the family. And I just was like, I wanted to give up. I really want you guys to know that I so desperately wanted to. It's so much easier to give up, because it is. But for sure, something I learned along the way is if you don't give up, you'll definitely break through the cloud and hit that silver lining. And that was after every struggle. That's why I said this is a blessing what we're going through right now. You just don't see it yet, because we're in it right now. We're in the shit. We're in the storm. You don't see the beautiful sky yet, because it's storm time right now. It's raining. It's cold. Clouds are dark. But no, I didn't give up. I fucking every day I came to work and tattooed and paid the construction guy this and that. And yeah, it was torture. It was 2 years of sacrifice. Now here we are in 2010. The shop is kind of, you know, restored and put back to normal. And I now have an apartment, and I got a car that I'm paying like 20% interest on, because that was the only thing I can get. And I'm kind of rebuilding my life again. But hey, I didn't give up. Now I got a car. Now I got a small apartment, right? Now the shop is mostly finished being rebuilt. I don't have any money to my name. But throughout that process, I started making machines again. I stopped for like a month, and then everybody kept asking me for them. I need more. I need more, please. My friend wants one. So it was like, then I was like, fuck, this is so hard, man. I got to make money and pay to get my shop rebuilt. I got to make money to pay for the kids. I got to make money to make machines. And like, man, there would be sometimes when I would machine. I was an ATM, man. I would tattoo all day, and I'd have like $1,000 in my pocket, or $500 or whatever, man. And the next day it'd be all gone. That was like, for 2 years, that was my story. Money in, money out. And so I started building machines again. I started doing like lots of 5 and 10 and 15 and sometimes 2. And so I was like building machines all night. And I'm telling you, man, like I really went through some shit, man. No sleep. It was just like, if I'm not going to give up, I'm going to go hard. And that's really what I'll tell you guys. If you're not going to give up, either give up or go hard, right? If you're not going to give up, you got to fucking run. You got to go super hard. And
you owe it to yourself.
And look, man, and then I hit another struggle. So now things are starting to get rebuilt. Then, you know, I think I was going through so much stress back then that I ended up having this anxiety attack. Remember, artists were sensitive, right? And so I went to the hospital thinking I was having the classic heart attack. And I got an x-ray, and he's like, hey, you're not having a heart attack, but you have something in your lungs. You should get checked out. Long story short, I went to the doctor. He's like, you got a tumor in your lung, and we're going to do a test on you to see if it's cancerous. Jeez. Long story short, it was cancerous. So technically, you know, in 2010, 2011, right after the fire. Now this is about 2012, right after the fire. Now I got this lung cancer bullshit I got to go do.
I remember that, yeah.
So now I got to go and get my lung operated on. Keep in mind, I've never had surgery. So I'm getting punched in the face left and right. You know, it's like, boom. Like, I'm talking like left hooks by Mike Tyson, like the kind of punches that usually take a person down. But I just never gave up. And that's the thing I want to share with you guys. Never give up. Always believe in God. Always go with the flow. Tap into that divine energy that everyone can tap into. If you're quiet enough, if you care enough to do so, and it will guide you. And that's really what I did. And, you know, I had to go get surgery, and I had to get 1/3 of my right lung taken out, you know, and the doctor comes up to me and he goes, I got good news and bad news. The good news is it's a very rare type of lung cancer. It often never returns, and it doesn't really grow fast. That's the good news. The bad news is it's cancerous, and you need surgery, and you need surgery quick. So I told him, hey, look, I've never been to Italy before, and I'm going in 2 weeks. I'm like, can this wait? And so he's like, yeah, it could wait. It could wait. So I ended up going to Italy, which was the inspiration for the studio because, you know, at the time it was like fixed, but then I wanted to decorate it, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Oropeza. David,
Mr. Ray Oropeza.
Ray, yeah, he did a lot of the shop.
He does some of the best work, man.
Yeah, Ray gets down. He's going to do our room upstairs. And, of course, our brother Rob, Venetian Rob, did a lot of stuff here. Got a dope shop because of these guys. But, hey, look, man, I didn't quit. I went and got surgery. Then I was healing for 3 months. I was in the house. I had my crew come over to the house, and we're building machines. I couldn't walk 3 feet without, you know, puffing for air. Yeah. You know, because I was missing a big chunk of my lung. So again, that was another battle I had to go through. And now we're in about 2012. And so at the time, it was like I didn't give up on Bishop. I didn't give up on the shop. And I just went full board with Bishop. And so at that time, it was just like, I'm going to dedicate myself to Bishop. I had to sacrifice who I was as a tattoo artist. And still to this day, I do. That's another story. But yeah, man, that's how I parlayed my tattoo career into being a businessman. Let's pause
Now,
for questions.
actually,
on that.
I was about to ask, so in transition to a businessman, and having those old school tattoo artists, the old timers, who are some of your mentors and people who helped guide you along the path in your tattoo journey?
Okay, so a lot of it is so guys like
what's the importance of a mentorship? Let's start there.
Okay, so it's important to have mentors, you guys. It's very important to have mentors. It's important to read books. Like I'm going to give you some life-changing books, right? Like Napoleon Hill in his own words. Okay, Napoleon Hill in his own words. There's books. There's so many books to read. I have a good mentor named Noah who took me in and taught me how to airbrush and some philosophies that I was able to parlay into my tattoo career. So Noah's a good influence. My father, man, he went from being this crazy alcoholic to very spiritual man who we love. He's your father too, right?
Absolutely.
He's adopted
Julio, you, man. He's godsend.
I say I learned a lot from my dad, both bad and good. I learned what not to do the first half of my life, and I learned what to do the second half of my life. So it's important to have mentors. It's important to read books. Read all of Napoleon Hill's books. Those are great ones. Maybe I'll leave a book list at some point because there's so many.
We'll put that up on the story. We'll have you put that up on your story. Your top selections, because definitely you're gonna want to throw up 4 agreements.
But yeah, in 4 agreements, you have Don Miguel Ruiz, the 5th agreement. In general, guys, listen to me. I know we got about 5 more minutes left, but don't fucking give up on anything, because you're going to make it through. And when you make it through, there's something beautiful waiting for you. It's a fucking law. It's like gravity. I'm telling you, I've done this 3 or 4 times. Yes. I've done this. I'm telling you. And I've seen me almost give up, and I've seen what I almost didn't get. Don't give up. Whatever you're going through, do not give up. That's the only reason why I'm doing this interview right now. This has nothing to do with tattooing. I'm not coming at you as a businessman right now. I'm coming at you as Franco Vescovi, the tattoo artist, and your peer. Everything we do, even at Bishop, is for you guys. I make things for myself, and if I like it, then you get it. I'm constantly trying to improve our craft in every type of way. But don't give up. If you're a shop owner, I know you feel like babysitting half the time, but we'll do some other videos on shop ownership. Any other questions?
Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to do another segment with you, because this is too good.
Yeah, let me talk about the video really quick that we're releasing.
Yes.
There's so much to talk about. Thank you guys for letting me speed through this. This wasn't really a proper time frame to really get into my story. There's a lot of story. I just wanted to share a little bit of it with you guys. I normally don't. But in this time, I really wanted to share something that you guys can persevere through. But hey, I released a video a long time ago, in 2006, 2007 is when we filmed it. It was Mastering Tattoo Portraits. I went so deep, and I've given away so many cool techniques that I earned, right? And I've given them away. And this DVD has helped so many people, thousands of people. And I've decided just to not sell it anymore. It's for free. So as of 3 o'clock today, we've uploaded it onto our Bishop Rotary YouTube page. If you're listening to this later on, this broadcast, it's live now. Listen to it. Watch it.
Yep, we'll have a link set up for that.
It's my gift to you guys during this quarantine. Drop a comment and let me know what you think of the video. There's no Bishop in the video because this is pre-Bishop. This is filmed pre-Bishop. But yeah, guys, thank you for listening to the stories and some of the history of Bishop and Vatican Studios and myself. I love you guys. I love my industry. I just want to keep dedicating more to the craft. I want to teach more. So let me know what you guys want to know and learn, and send us some DMs and drop some comments.
Yeah, we've got people chiming in. David Vega, you're such an inspiration. Thank you. Mr. Sage O'Connell, how you doing, sir?
Love those guys. Sage,
thank
David.
you for everything through the years, my brother. Sanchez Taps, thank you for sharing. People want this to keep going. Gianna Ponce says she wants more of this. with
Maybe
you because you
maybe.
have so much. You have so much to offer
All right.
everybody.
Who are we interviewing Monday? Is there anybody?
We're gonna confirm that today. We're gonna confirm
Okay.
that today, but we've got a couple artists. But
okay, we got. I know we got to get off here. What time did we start this?
we actually got 3 minutes, boss man.
Okay. Okay. So guys, look.
Let's end this right now because we'll get into the. We can open up another can next time.
We'll
with
do
all the
another one.
positivity. What is the message that you want to share with everybody at home with your message of hope, my brother?
Treat this time like it's sacred. Meditate. Reinvent yourself. Read the books that you've heard from your friends to read. Go within. Turn this chaos into creative power. Go within. Meditate, exercise, eat well. Just better yourself. Use this time to better yourself. Don't worry about what you're going through, even if you can't pay your bills. We've had plenty of those days. We've had the days we couldn't pay our bills. Who gives a fuck, right? You're still alive. Like, just live another day. Become better. If you become better, you'll become more wealthy. Bottom line. Don't worry about tomorrow because it ain't promised to no man. Worry about today only. And don't worry about yesterday because that's over. Just focus on today, meditate, pray to God, and live your best life.
Oh, man. Well, I guess that's right there. That's the mic drop right there. Well,
in this
Franco,
case, pen.
Well, there we go. Pen drop. Well, hey, I'll look forward to you getting back here at the house here. Thank you so much for your time. And I can just say personally, from my perspective, you personally saved my life. And I am truly grateful beyond belief. And I know that there are so many other people out there. When you come to conventions, I know you love meeting everybody, the new faces, everybody's perspective. And we just want to say thank you for everything that you're doing for the tattoo community. Thank you for thinking of us. And thank you for speaking for us, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, James.
Absolutely,
brother
James.
James.
Man. Well, I guess you guys know that's the end, and that's a wrap. So just guys remember, if nobody loves you, Bishop's got you. And we out. Have a beautiful weekend, everybody.
Thank you, brother.